In a famous 2010 study that looked at whether earning more money made you happier, researchers concluded something that you might already expect. They found that earning more money did buy you better life satisfaction. And on the flip side, they did find that those earning much lower money, well below the average, did consider themselves a lot more unhappy. However, there's a couple of more interesting points that they discovered. Now, firstly, earning more money did not make people happier on its own. And secondly, the amount of money you needed wasn't just a straightforward amount. In fact, they found that after earning a certain amount of money, you didn't gain any additional benefits. Here on screen now is what they found. Now focus on this part here where the line slopes off. What this shows is that at around $75,000, which is around £60,000 here in the UK, earning more money doesn't really make a difference. So that's it then. End of the video, that's all you need to know? Well, no, because they never said it made you happy. In fact, they just said that it gave you better satisfaction. And also, come on, this data is more than a decade old. Do you know what inflation has done to that money in just 13 years?
It's all gone.
Anyway, this is why I've pulled together all of the latest data on the topic, and I think you're going to be really interested in what all of the newest research has to say. Just some quick background. I got the idea for this video after looking at articles covering some of the latest research looking into money and happiness. Headlines like this one saying 6 out of 10 Americans say money can buy happiness, and another saying more money means more happiness. The first headline comes from some of the most up-to-date information that we have, and some of the results I think are pretty mind-blowing. They surveyed more than 2,000 Americans from different generations and asked them questions about money and happiness, especially questions like how much money do you need to earn to feel happy, and this was the result. Gen Z said they needed $128,000, Boomers said $124,000 would do it for them, Gen X said $130K and that's all them set, and Millennials, well, they said, why not go all the way and give us more than $525,000? Now, as a 35-year-old millennial myself, that would definitely do me nicely, but clearly we can't all earn that kind of money, so what's really going on? Well, going back to the study in 2010, I think we can all agree that the world has changed a huge amount since then. Now, just from the perspective of money alone, to get the same buying power of $1 in 2010, you'd need to have more than 40% today in 2023. Inflation on its own has meant that in just 13 years, unless you've been receiving some massive pay rises, the money in your pocket has been getting less and less valuable. Now, not only that, but some of the biggest purchases that people need to make have inflated way beyond that average. Now, take buying a house as an example. Back in 2010, if we use the US as an example, the median average home was $221,900. And if you compare that to the median average salary, which was $33,840 at the same time, this means that a house costs just over 6.5 times your salary. Now fast forward to today, and although you may have got a pay rise, putting the median average US salary at $45,760, the median average house price has now skyrocketed to $431,000. And although that's not quite as high as we saw during the peak of the post-pandemic boom, that's still more than 9.5 times the average salary. But putting homes to one side for a moment, it's just one part of a giant puzzle that makes up happiness. We can't just explain everything by saying house prices have gone up, so everyone just wants more money. In the most recent survey from Empower, here's what people said defined financial happiness. The top 3 things were paying bills on time and in full, with 67% of people agreeing with this one. Next up is being debt-free, with 65% of people saying that's what they needed. And then finally in third is enjoying everyday small luxuries without worry, like buying a pumpkin spice latte even though it's way past Halloween. Now, none of these things mention buying a house, but they are all tied to making enough money where your bills don't end up more than your salary. And that's no surprise when lots of people in the same survey were concerned with rising prices and inflation, seeing their bills go up but their salaries stay the same. But this is all just still scratching the surface because there's so many more other factors that we need to discuss when looking at money and happiness, as every situation is just so different. Here's an interesting point to kick us off. So we just saw that the average salary that people wanted from each generation was pretty high, right? Well into the 6 figures, with millennials wanting a huge amount of cash. But if we break this down further, I think that this part is probably even more interesting. In the same survey, when people were asked about their ideal salary, the data shows something really interesting when we also take into account what the people earned currently. So with this in mind, now take a look here. What we're seeing now is how much people think they need to earn to be happy, but now in relation to what they currently earn. So here, for example, if someone currently earns around 50k per year, they say they need 75k to feel happy. then if someone earns more like 100k a year, they say that they really need to be making 150k to be happier. And it doesn't stop there. What's really interesting was that even for the high earners making more than 150k and above, they still give an almost identical answer, that in order to be happy, they need to be making more money, which is at least 50% more than they currently make. Funny enough, it was the highest earners who reckoned they needed even more to be really happy, and now I'm thinking, is all of this talk of money and happiness just subjective? Does everyone always just want more, assuming that they'd be happy, or is there something else that we're all missing?
Please, sir, I want some more.
Well, there's definitely something to be said about all of this being subjective and relative. Now, in a separate survey carried out by S-Money, they asked questions to people about how much they needed to be happy based on where they live, and this study was global. So just bringing this back to the UK for a moment, here's how much people think they need to be happy based on which town or city they live in. Now, as you can see, the results vary massively, all the way from needing to earn just over 60k in the Midlands and Scotland, to the most expensive place being London, with people reckoning they need almost 80k to be happy. Now, I was actually a little bit surprised here, as I would have actually put more for London and less for some of the other areas, but hey, for some perspective, a salary of 60k in the UK would put you in the top 10% of all earners. So 9 out of every 10 people would be earning less than you for you to be financially happy. Now, jumping back to the States, we get a similar story, but there's a bit of a bigger difference between the lowest and the highest numbers. So have a look here. We have some cities where people think you need just under 100k to be happy. But then on the higher end, we have places like New York, San Francisco, and Santa Barbara in California, where everyone thinks you need at least 144k to be happy. Now, that's definitely no surprise if you've ever seen house prices there or looked at trying to rent anything. Again, for some perspective, how do these numbers look when you try and take them nationally? Well, according to the latest US data, to be part of the top earning 10% of the country, you'd need to earn at least $135,000. And then what about even the cheapest places to live? Well, even asking for around 95k a year would put you around the top 20% of the whole of the US. An almost similar result to the UK then. People reckon that to be happy, you need to be somewhere between a top 20% earner and a top 10% earner. Now I wonder if people realise when they were asked this question just how far up the scale they really were asking to be. So is that the answer then? Earn somewhere between the top 20% and the top 10% in your country and you'll probably end up very happy. Well, I've got no doubt that plenty of people are happy in that bracket. There will also be plenty who will never be happy and will always want more to finally give you an answer to that question if they are financially happy. Now, I think we're getting closer, but let me show you some more of the latest research, as not everyone agrees that there is a number that can make people happy. In this study published in 2020 called Experience Wellbeing Rises with Income, even above 75k a year, they come to the conclusion that the original research we looked at from the beginning, where satisfaction drops off around 75k a year, was actually not a valid conclusion. Now in this paper, they look at a lot more people and a lot more data points, and actually found something that you might be surprised with, that actually you can keep earning more and still get more positive results. So take a look here. They reckon that as you earn more money in your household, your life satisfaction can keep improving and your experience well-being also goes up. And also, it's pretty linear, meaning that there's basically no drop-off like we saw back in the famous 2010 study at that 75k mark. Here, it looks like the more you grind to chase those dollar bills and pound notes, there's no limit to the level of happiness that you can achieve. In another part of the conclusion, they also asked the question if household income reduced negative feelings, not just improved the positive ones, and again, the results are pretty interesting. As you earn more money, there is clearly a trend in more positive feelings and also less negative ones. Now, interestingly as well, if you do add on a line for that 75k number, which was referenced from the previous study, this does seem to be a rough break-even point where the negative feelings decline and positive ones keep increasing. So now I'm very confused. Do we just chase more money to be happy, or does a real number actually exist? I think we're going to have to dive into a bit more of the data on happiness that puts the money to one side for a moment, because surely we have to be missing something here.
Greed is right. Greed works.
One study I came across was pretty funny. It's called Money Giveth, Money Taketh Away. And the researchers wanted to look at whether or not money actually stops us enjoying the smaller moments in life and what they call savouring everyday emotions. The idea is that if you have access to money or you're able to buy anything, then you forget to enjoy the little things in life which everyone says are important. Things like a sunrise, a crisp winter's day, or even just spending the day at home with your family. All of these things can get lost when you can fly first class to Vegas, party all night, and then end up with a lion in your penthouse suite. You know what? I think there could definitely be a good film made about that. The researchers did a couple of different studies. Now in one, they asked a few hundred people about their happiness, their desire for future wealth, and their current wealth. But to make things interesting, some of the group were exposed to pictures of large sums of money in a stack to try and prime them to think about, whereas others were given nothing. Surprisingly, they found that those people who were exposed to even just a picture of the money found themselves not to be able to savour as much as the rest of the group. So this means that they weren't even able to enjoy and think about some of the scenarios that they were shown as much as those who didn't have to worry about a big pile of money. Also, putting the picture of money to one side for a moment, they also found that those people who reported higher incomes and higher wealth to begin with also produced lower results on this savouring scale. People who think about money or are forced to think about money and wealth struggle to enjoy the moment and enjoy the simple things in life. And they even found something similar in another study that I thought was pretty funny. They did a similar test allowing people to enjoy some chocolate whilst recording how long they took to eat it and how much enjoyment they showed. Again, some people were shown these pictures of stacks of cash and others were shown blurred images where nothing was clear. And to no surprise, even enjoying chocolate is just not as fun once you prime your brain with pictures of money. So I'd probably say if you do want to enjoy some chocolate once in a while, just don't do it while looking at cash. On a fun note, they did say that women spent significantly longer enjoying chocolate. So the next time you're eating some snacks with your partner on the sofa, watch as she bites off all of the chocolate from the Kit Kat first before savouring every single bite. Maybe we can learn something here, or maybe it's just me. Surely it can't just be me.
You eat like a baby.
Anyway, enough chocolate. We want the final answer about how much money we need to be happy. And I think there's only one more place left to turn when you really want to explore the subject of happiness. Let me show you the longest running survey on human happiness that we're aware of, called the Harvard Study of Adult Development. Now this project has been running for 75 years, tracking 724 men to begin with, that has now expanded to thousands of people, many of whom are descendants of the original 724. The study follows people closely, looking at medical records, their lifestyle, if they marry, if they have kids, and how long they eventually live for. It's been going on for so long that we're now at the 4th director of the study. Now here's the current director on stage talking about some of the findings of the study. When I first watched this video, I was ready to hear all about how much money you needed to be happy and how all of the richest people in the study were also the happiest as well. But to my surprise, here's what they actually found.
Well, the lessons aren't about wealth or fame or working harder and harder. The clearest message that we get from this 75-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. We've learned 3 big lessons about relationships. The first is that social connections are really good for us and that loneliness kills. It turns out that people who are more socially connected to family, to friends, to community are happier, they're physically healthier, and they live longer than people who are less well connected.
No mention about money, nothing about what kind of job they did, and definitely nothing here about what kind of chocolate they liked eating. So do we have this question all completely wrong then? We do know that earning more money helps us to have better experiences, and certainly having less of it causing us stress, especially if we can't pay bills or enjoy life's small luxuries like buying our favourite coffee. But if we only chase money and operate with some crazy grind set, we'll end up getting old with nothing real to show for it other than lots of stuff, or even lots of wealth without ever really enjoying it. For most of us, there will always be someone else richer with more money that we can aim to compare ourselves against. Now, I don't think it's worth just saying don't do that kind of thing because we all do it, but it is worth realising that when we do it, we might be asking the wrong questions. Looking at some of the global stats on happiness, it's interesting to see that although we might be richer than ever before and have better technology, most people, when asked, don't consider themselves happier than just a few years ago. In fact, if you rank the world's happiest countries, the UK and the US don't even find themselves in the top 10. According to the World Happiness Report, the happiest countries are the likes of Finland, Denmark and Iceland, followed by all of the rest. And you don't even get to the US until 15th place, and the poor old UK is sat here in 19th position. I have a feeling that no matter how much money you earn here in the UK or in the US, it's probably not the money on its own that's going to solve it, but probably something a lot deeper and more complicated. Having lots of money compared to not having very much money at all definitely helps. I mean, there's no doubt about that at all. But is there really an ideal amount of money or a number that suddenly will make people more happy? If there is, then I've not found it yet, at least here in the research, and maybe it's something that's unique to everyone as we're all different. Or maybe we're just focusing on completely the wrong thing and need to enjoy what we have now rather than what we could have. Maybe we need to stop asking this question,
Please, sir, I want some more.
And instead follow the advice of the happiness expert, Dr. Robert Waldinger, who gets the final word.
If you want to make one choice today that will make you healthier and happier, it is to pay attention to improving your connections with other people. That is such a good investment, and it will pay off for years to come.